And we are recording.
Welcome to the Somerville Job Creation and Retention Trust meeting of July 17th, 2025. My name is Annika Van Eaton. I am one of the managing co-trustees of the Job Creation and Retention Trust, and I bring this meeting to order at 6:33 p.m. On March 28th, 2025, Governor Healy signed into law a bill that extends the temporary provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to June 30th, 2027. Specifically, this further extension allows public bodies to continue to hold meetings remotely without a quorum of the public body physically present at the meeting location, and to provide adequate alternative access to remote meetings. This session will be held in a hybrid format, will be recorded, and will be public record. I will now ask the board members to confirm they are in attendance in alphabetical order. Thomas Bent.
Present.
Vicky Coitz.
Present.
Silvana Dinka.
Present.
Jim Hetchy.
Present.
Jacob Luria.
Present.
Wilfred Mba. Not currently here. Rachel Ned-Carney.
Present.
Rachel is listening in the room. You just can't see her on the camera.
Oh, I was like, where did that voice come from? The spirit of Rachel is in the Zoom. Okay, cool. Hi, Rachel. Annika Van Eaton, present. Rand Wilson.
Present.
All right, we have a quorum. I will now ask city staff to cover a few housekeeping rules about technology. Take it away, William.
Thanks, Annika. So as you all know, my name is William Blackmer, and I am the Workforce Development Coordinator and Service Staff to the JCRT. When an agenda item is being presented, presentation materials received ahead of time will be displayed on the screen. If the chair asks for public comment, please use the raise hand function on Zoom if you would like to speak, and you will be unmuted one by one and given 2 minutes to speak. Trust members, all votes must be roll call votes with a motion and a second. And the chair will call on each board member for a yes/no vote in alphabetical order. Any comments in the chat box will be part of the public record in accordance with open meeting law. And one-to-one chat has also been disabled to comply with our public records law. And with that, I will send it back to Annika for the first item.
Thanks, William. So our first item is review and approval of the June 10th meeting minutes. So before we go to official approval, I want to see if anyone has any proposed edits or things they want to raise about the minutes. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the June 10th meeting minutes.
I second.
All righty. We'll now go through the board members to vote yes or no. Tom Bent.
Yes.
Vicky Coitz.
Yes.
Silvana Dinka.
Yes.
Jim Hetchy.
Yes.
Jacob Luria.
Yes.
Rachel Ned-Carney.
Yeah.
Annika Van Eaton. Yes. Rand Wilson.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, everyone. Measure passes. Our next update is to look at our updates on the linkage fees. So I will pass it back to William to pull that up on the screen and walk through it with us. Thanks, William.
Thanks. Okay, and I have a here too. Okay, are you able to see the screen okay? I can
Yes.
also make it a little larger. So the exciting update for this month is a rather large one. It relates to the question we had a couple of months ago about whether our balance is accumulating interest, and if not, if there were options for it to do so. And I got a response back from our finance team, and the good news is that we are earning a monthly interest on the balance of the trust and have been since its inception in 2019. It exists in the same account, it just was under a different tab in our municipal database. So because we have so much money sitting, waiting, and we've had so much come in, we actually have around $400,000 in cumulative interest. So that's good news. It brings our current uncommitted balance to a little over 2.6 million. And we do still have 2 projects on this list that we are anticipating payments from to the tune of about $900,000 between those 2 projects. We currently don't have funds projected to come in 2026 or 2027. So, but luckily we weren't really anticipating this 400,000, and now we have that. So that's where the trust sits as of now.
Thanks, William. I am thrilled to hear that we've been accumulating interest, and that is a hefty amount of money to have added. So great work sleuthing out this information and bringing it back to the trust. Good news, and appreciate the look ahead to what's coming. I want to see if any board members have any questions, comments on this. Okay. Seeing none, thanks, William. This chart is always very clear and easy to navigate. So I think board members probably have their information that they need just by looking at it. But if folks have questions as you review it later, let us know. So now we're going to go to our agenda item where we review and discuss the active programs and obligations to center ourselves and where we are with the money that's gone out the door, the money that's in the process of going out the door, and then we have a conversation about one of our priorities. So we could bring up that other document. We'll walk through where everything is. Okay, super cool. So the blue is what we're looking at with, pardon me, active programs. And so we've got Scales second contextualized ESOL program. We've got the post-secondary success coaching program. We've got, oh my God, FC Tech, not BFIT anymore, right? FC Tech's clean energy and IT training, the youth pre-apprenticeship training, just to start's biomedical and IT trainings. The per school is IT trainings, and the professional development fund for workforce development professionals. So those are all currently happening. They have our money, they are running. They're serving participants, or in one case recruiting new participants with per schools. Then we have 2 programs that recently ended. Those are in the gray. And so one is the Bunker Hill Community College English Language Learning Project. And then the other is our Resilient Somerville trauma-informed workforce training by Corporation for a Skilled Workforce. And then we've got, where is the, can you scoot back over on the on the chart? Thank you. And then at the bottom, well, like not like the bottom, but the bottom of the table, our Good Municipal Jobs Training Program, that RFP is out and about. There was an info session at the beginning of June. There is a second round of questions that are, or a second window for questions that are due tomorrow at 12. So if anyone who you are talking to who's working on this has more questions, please encourage them to submit. Then there's going to be answers that go out. And this is due on August 15th is when the proposal is due. We are waiting on our job quality and human resources training for the hiring of another city workforce development staff person. And then our childcare advancement initiative, which is what we recently awarded to Summer Promise, is in the mix. And so we do have a discussion we want to have about the financial literacy priority. But before we get to that, I want to pause and see if anyone has any questions about either our currently funded programs or recently ended programs, or these ones that are under priority that are like in the mix right now of getting the process of applications or getting money out. Vicky?
A question on, under the priority around job quality, human resources. Do we have any updates on the hiring of that workforce development staff person?
Yes, I can recommend that, so.
Might have to.
Rachel's coming a little closer to the owl.
Yeah, come into the owls. Gaze,
The
Rachel.
L zone.
Sorry, I'm also on biosafety committee and we have an actual
Oh,
application this evening.
we have an event going on?
No, they just have their standard activity.
Oh, okay.
So on the hiring, we are moving. We have a job title now, it's formalized. We made it through a lot of conversation over the last couple of months with the city council around mission and goal of this, and also resetting the wage theft advisory committee and with the wage theft ordinance. And so there's a lot of work that had to be done to reshape that so that that can actually start to fill up with positions. Because it was very specifically tied to organizations, some of which were no longer involved in wage theft. So they reshifted a lot of that work. Also changes a lot of to recognize that there will be a staff person who will actually support that committee. And so our staff will support that committee going forward. And we are ready to start the hiring process actually hopefully fairly soon. Because the position is funded with an October 1 earliest start date.
Okay.
I expect it'll probably end up being sometime slightly later in October, just as the way the world works. That we actually have a person in that seat, but the position is going to be a workforce development planner position. That way the title is the core to their workflow is going to be workplace quality, but the job title will be a bit broader. It'll fit within the rest of our titles, and so that way when that person goes into a small business and says, hi, I'm the workforce development planner, it doesn't say, hey, I'm here as an enforcement agent, I'm here to bring bad news. It really shows that I want to work in partnership. And we really wanted to make sure we got a title that gave that neutral to positive tone to the business community as well as the folks that are gonna be working on. So
Absolutely.
we got there. It took a little bit. We also, I think, are in good shape in terms of what the position is going to be, what the funding is. We know how they're gonna be graded in our systems. There's a lot of things that have progressed. So we're really at the point of finalizing the job description and getting it out on the street. And also have gotten a lot of really good connections to resources for where we might turn to advertise the position as well. And definitely will, as soon as we add that out in the world, I think Job Trust members would be fantastic network as well to share this. We are thinking that, this position might be something great for somebody who's coming out of a union organizing role, right? Like somebody who's really interested in engaging with a workforce and explaining rights, your work rights in the workplace. And then as well, the flip side of that is also, can you engage a business owner and have a conversation around, these are your responsibilities now that you are employing someone. And so that that delicate balance is gonna take some dancing.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're gonna be looking for in the hiring.
Great. That's a great update. There's a
Progress.
lot of people looking for jobs out there, so. you probably will have a lot of
Certainly folks who
applications.
come from the federal workforce,
Yeah.
you know,
And
this is
state.
gonna be, a job that they would be able to walk into and really understand, you know, the landscape that they're trying to convey.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what we want, is somebody who can really convey complicated information in a digestible way.
Nice. And when Rand and I met with, Ed a couple of days ago or yesterday, maybe, I can't remember. He mentioned something about a Somerville hiring freeze. Is that citywide or just for certain departments?
There is a Somerville hiring, it's a staggered hiring freeze, and so that's why that October 1 start date matters. Part of what we are also looking at is our senior planner for workforce development has a start date of December 1. And so again, there's a little bit of, you know, that might move up if things, it, you know, depends on where the numbers come in September for the last parts of the city budget. It might stay December 1, it might slide back a little bit, we don't know, but as of right now, we're on October 1 for, we can be looking at hiring for that, workforce development planner position for October 1 and the senior planner position December 1.
So how is it staggered?
So it's staggered in that those start dates are defined, and so that we are, you know,
Okay.
even though the position, the senior planner position is a vacancy that, you know,
Right.
with like Jen Mancia, when she left that vacancy. The decision was is for any vacancies that there are, it's staggered across the whole city of when those can be filled.
Oh,
So
so
some
it's
get an
more
October
staggered
date, some
hiring.
get a December
Okay.
date, some get a March date, and so it's.
I see.
And so similarly, if we were to have a vacancy come up now,
Yeah,
that would be staggered out probably a few extra months to be able to give some flexibility, and some wiggle room in the budget, just as we're looking at some tightening.
that makes sense. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. William, could you turn the blur off for you guys? Vicky and Rachel are in kind of like a witness protection situation here.
I think it's,
It might be the owl.
yeah, I think it's the owl just like not quite picking.
Try the blur just in case, but I will rub it and we'll see what happens. I have heard tell that this can help.
Oh, just
Yeah.
kidding.
That's what I meant. Yep, perfect.
You're right.
Thank you.
I know, I was wondering why it
Thank you,
wasn't,
Rachel.
it was just picking us up occasionally. Thanks, Monica.
Sure thing. Alrighty. So the one that I want to zero in on here is about the financial literacy. We had talked about having a separate RFP for some sort of financial literacy program within Somerville. And we had talked about that months ago and have a subcommittee that we've been trying to schedule a time to meet. And then in the course of that, William, I appreciate you flagging that we also started talking about, do we create a more open call RFP to serve the needs of the workforce development community and training community in this time of deep funding uncertainty. And so you mentioned revisiting if we want to send out another specific RFP or if we want to include components of financial literacy as something that someone might send in funding for, or I think there's sort of a host of options. But I would note that we've got this one RFP out. We have another grant program that we're working on getting started. And so then if we are doing a more general RFP as well, that could cover a host of workforce development and training issues, that would need to go out at some point. And then we have this potential specific financial literacy RFP. And so I think the question that we wanted to bring back to the board is, do we want to revisit including financial literacy in a big fall 2025 RFP? Or do we want to continue, stay the course on a separate financial literacy RFP and do a more general, larger RFP? So I'm interested in folks' thoughts on this.
I have an
Vicky.
opinion.
Yes, Vicky.
I think we should roll it into a general RFP. Otherwise, I think it'll just kind of get confusing, and financial literacy is a pretty general topic, so it would fit well with a more general RFP. And it also is good to combine financial literacy with other things, so I just feel like a more open, flexible RFP around this topic would be best for the field.
Thanks, Vicky. Jim?
Yes, so, yeah, I agree as well, and maybe that could be included in part of someone's, I guess, application, so I agree 110%.
Thanks, Jim. Any other thoughts? Anyone have concerns about not advancing a separate financial literacy priority RFP? Not seeing any concerns. Okay, so it seems like we could revisit this pot of money and fold it back into the larger version. I think we need to do a vote for that. A vote to reobligate. Can't remember, did we put that on the agenda?
We didn't put it on the agenda, but
We can do it next time.
yeah, maybe that could be a next time, or maybe it's even like a combined vote of reobligating the 250 plus whatever else might be obligated. So maybe we can just note that it seems like the board is on board with that approach, and we'll have it in some form in a vote as well, just because it has been previously obligated.
Okay, thanks, William, for tracking that, and we will have a formal vote when we can put it on the agenda for public notice in a future meeting. Okay, so speaking of the larger, more general, responsive, let's call it more responsive request for proposal. So we had talked last meeting about doing something in light of that different organizations are getting maybe federal funding cuts, maybe philanthropic funding cuts, maybe having new needs arise from their participants. And so we had talked about an RFP with a more flexible scope that is pulling from the parameters set out in our governing documents around what we can spend the linkage fees on, and then letting the community highlight which elements of our mission are what they are sort of running out of funding or what they need funding for right now. And I appreciate, William, you shared around the scope and pulled some text from our governing documents. And I think everyone should have reviewed that before here. We can also review that now. And this is an opportunity we have to shape the language and see if there are elements of the options in our governing documents that we think aren't worth prioritizing in this exact moment, though they're permissible under the use of the funds. But given everything that's going on, maybe we want to narrow it a little bit to some of the specific planks of our mission. And so this would be a good opportunity for folks to highlight bullet points that they think aren't totally meeting the moment of where we would want to be focusing our funds.
Thanks, and I'll go ahead and bring up that draft that was circulated as well. I'll share that.
Perfect. Thanks, William.
And just make it a little larger. Okay. So just to kind of echo what Annika shared, last meeting, we were looking at the list of essentially ways that the trust can spend funds, and I believe there was a couple of them in our June meeting that we were discussing as a group, maybe didn't really shouldn't really stand on their own in this RFP, or a little bit too vague. So is it helpful for me to just read through the bullets that are on here? Quickly?
Sure.
Yeah, okay, so, so these would be eligible uses based on the RFP that we're drafting, so it's funding to assist in the development and creation of job training, skill development, apprenticeship, and adult education and credentialing programs, pretty straightforward. Funds to assist in outreach efforts to identify vulnerable populations facing barriers to employment and provide training and services that will enable residents to access quality job opportunities. So that piece is highlighted in blue just because that was a little bit of an expansion. Before it just said outreach. Essentially, we wanted to make sure it was known we're not just looking for that component on its own. The third bullet is funds to purchase tools, including software, to enable the city and its workforce development partners to develop data-driven systems to identify and assess residents' skills or match residents with available local jobs. Our fourth bullet is funds to assist public agencies and nonprofit partners to purchase equipment and defray other capital costs directly related to job training and education purposes. The next is seed money for new programs or new organizations. Then we have funds to support high school and career and technical education programs. Funds to assist employers and their partners to improve high road business practices with innovative business models such as worker-owned co-ops. Funds for professional development and training for nonprofit and education partners. And then lastly, funds for capacity building to enhance an organization's ability to provide training and services that will enable residents to access quality job opportunities. So that was a mouthful, but if there's any that you want me to scroll back to, or any that I think if the group has concerns or maybe wants clarification on any of them.
Thanks, William.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Hey. I think one thing that stands out to me in reading this, and it's been a while for me, is that when this was all written, it really had this focus on what we've been talking about in terms of that, like, piloting. Like, it really, like, I really as we're reading it, like, it really stands out to me that this guides us to that place of, yeah, we do want you to be piloting something new. We do want you to be thinking about this as funding to launch or to, like, grow, not to sustain base levels. And I think one of the things that we've been hearing more and more is the need for that long-term trajectory. And that maybe part of what we're having to, like, shape for ourselves is a sense of what is that, like, pilot to long-term, like, trajectory. Like, to me, like, maybe there's a path out here where it's like, yeah, like, we want you to take, maybe it's an idea that you piloted and you're trying to convert it into something new, and therefore it's fun, like, it still meets the spirit, but I don't know, I'm struggling a little bit with the back and forth, because I know what everyone's looking for and needing right now is we have to cover the core so we can be here for tomorrow. But this list really doesn't give us, I'm not seeing the space in this list initially that says that the trust was designed to do that.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to like reconcile that for myself of how do we get there? And like, maybe in my mind, maybe it's a little bit about like, there's a longer lead time from piloted idea to long-term has to live on its own that we might be able to fund, but that if you're talking about something that has a 20-year track record and you have to make a case for how this is growing that 20-year track record program
Right.
in a new way, like that's what I'm seeing as a theme, and I don't know if I'm missing something.
Yeah, so I think I would delete seed money for new programs or new organizations. I would remove
Mhm.
that from our grant RFP. I think I might also take out funds for professional development and training because we have the training fund already. And I think if people have that need, we would direct them towards that. And then, William, if you could scroll down briefly, just to get that last one, yeah. Funds for capacity building to enhance an organization's ability to provide training and services. And we added that blue, right? We anchored this to the point of training and services. So I think between funds for capacity building, and then if you scroll back up, please,
Yeah,
to the first one. Funds to assist in the development and creation of programs. Okay, yeah, I think I see. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
think we
think-
could say instead of development and creation, I think we could just add in the word like continuation or just assist funds to support job training, skill development, apprenticeship, and adult education and credentialing programs. Like, I think that still very clearly is the core of our mission and would make it clear that this isn't a RFP for people to create new job training programs. It's to support their job training programs, which could be new if they're like, well, actually, we do need this new job training program because of something the labor market needs. But it could also be to continue on with a currently existing, like very successful job training program and enroll more people in it. So I think those would be my two thoughts to make this more or sort of less focused on making it sound like it's about creating new things and more about continuing the work that's already serving Somerville residents. Vicky.
Yeah, I agree with that. A slight amendment to that first bullet, you could say funds to assist in the implementation of
mhm,
job training, and then you're capturing both new programs and old programs.
Yep, I like that.
The other thing is, the second bullet on outreach efforts just
Mhm.
stands out to me as one that doesn't really fit, because you're gonna have to do outreach if you're implementing a job training program. So it just feels like it's not necessary. And I don't want, somebody to try to think that they can just fund outreach without having it tied directly to a training program. So I
Yeah.
think I would delete that one, I think.
I think that makes sense.
And then as I was reading this with fresh eyes tonight, I think the tools one and the equipment one. Yeah, the equipment one is good because it says cost directly related to job training and education purposes. I would probably use that language in the bullet on purchasing tools and software as well. So I think that's tighter language to make sure that it's tied to a job training program. Like, we're not just gonna pay for people to, get software or equipment.
Could they be combined?
They could be combined. Yeah, that would, streamlining things is always better.
mhm.
Yeah, so it would be funds to assist purchase equipment, tools,
Including software.
including software, and to defray other
And
capital costs directly related to job training and education purposes. So I would think about this if I'm like a training organization and I need a new set of, trying to think of some of the things we do, whatever, engines or something for someone to work on, you could like purchase this to make sure
Right.
that people have the actual objects they need to learn
Yeah.
the things they're learning.
Or safety equipment, harnesses,
Mhm.
hard hats,
Steel-toed boots.
steel-toed boots.
Love it.
I do think there's a layer that can be done in the, probably like deeper into the description, but we've seen this in some of the business support programs that we've applied to, where there's a limitation on how much you can use for that, like defraying of capital costs.
Mhm.
So it's like you can, the last one we just had was from the state was 15% could be used for overhead, and that was, could be staff time, could be rent, could be whatever
Mhm.
it is, but maybe we have a cap on.
Tools and equipment.
What
Yeah.
would be the point of that?
I think the question would be like, let's say somebody comes in that has a newer facility and they say, I just gotta be able to make rent to be able to. I'm thinking like just to start, because I just know that they're newer, right? They have a new facility over in Cambridge. Do they come in and they say, hey, we really need support to cover our rent, you know, we have this new space, it's costing, you know, we're not seeing the uptake in participation that we need to cover the costs. You know, would you be willing to cover their application?
50% of our rent.
50% of the rent for the next 3 months, and do we have an internal limit of like, yeah, we're willing to be supportive in the overhead costs, but it's of a certain maximum amount.
I think
Yeah, that is interesting. Good.
my thought is I wouldn't put an arbitrary limit on it. I would see if the rest of their application met our criteria. Because on the other hand, if we're like, no, we only fund 15%, then they go out of business because they don't have any money to pay their rent. I don't think we've really achieved our goals.
Exactly, we've undermined our goals, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, something that we have done in a lot of the RFPs has been to ask about matching funding sources, not in saying that that is like, it doesn't necessarily get you extra points or move you to the top of the pile, but it's definitely something to look at to see, you know, is the organization investing in this on their own, or are they only going to do it if they get a little bit of support?
Right, well, they're relying on us too much.
Yeah, exactly, because
What
I do-
what would putting their own money into something look like?
For other grant funds.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, you leveraging another grant to buy new equipment, but maybe,
I mean,
That-
that's what all the nonprofits are doing is they're stringing
Yeah.
together a series of grants to cover their work.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
appreciate the suggestion, but I feel like it is a little presumptive to think that they're just like tossing out one grant application and hoping that we're gonna foot them and then not putting any other effort into fundraising.
yeah,
Mhm. One thing, that, we might consider, which is where I thought you were gonna go with this, is funds to purchase tools, including software. We don't want a situation where somebody says, oh, I'm gonna start a new training program. It requires a lab that's gonna take $300,000 to build out. So I'm going to apply to this RFP to get all of the money to build out this lab. Meanwhile, 0 participants were trained, 0 Somerville participants were trained. So I think that that might be a question that we want to tackle at some point. If we're getting a subcommittee or if we're gonna try to handle this as a big group, that may be where we want to put a cap. Because I don't think that putting a cap on something like that wouldn't undermine our goals, because we're trying to figure out how to support existing programs. And I don't think that it would further our goals if they just use money to build out a lab.
Could also just, I mean, there's another way you could look at it is to say, we expect to see delivery of service to folks within 6 months
Yeah.
of the start of the grant or something like that,
That's a
but
good
like,
point, yeah,
it, rather than it being a cap, that it's
Mhm.
more of a like, this is not for you if
right, right.
you
yeah.
can't
Yeah.
launch the thing soon.
Mhm. So we do have
I-
tied to a training program, but we may need to strengthen that.
Yeah, I think, and I'm also wondering, Rachel, to your point, that if these are the uses, but then if we make it clear that like we expect outcomes to be that people are receiving services. And
Yeah.
so to I think exactly what you're saying, if they were like, well, we built a new lab and then in the space of the grant, like no one received services, then we would not approve that grant application because we'd be like, well, you've shared that there will be no services administered, and our whole deal is we're trying to like keep you providing services during this time. And so I think maybe if somewhere in the beginning where we're explaining this, and then also in where we explain the rubric for what is going to be a successful application, if we make it super clear that yes, this is around like supporting capacity, but it's supporting capacity to continue delivering your services right now, and
Mhm.
that we expect to see like clear outcomes of the types of work that you are doing, not necessarily like, I think we almost want to say like this isn't the time to like launch something totally new, or if you're doing
Mhm.
like a massive new brand new project, that this isn't really kind of the grant for you. This is more of a continuation support, like keeping things happening type grant.
Yeah,
Rachel.
The other one that stands out to me, and this is me being ignorant a little bit, the high road business practices one. I am not following exactly what we're looking for there. I also wonder if this is one that isn't quite aligned with the conversation we've been generally having. But maybe I just don't understand it, but
Mhm.
is,
I think that's really mostly just about job quality jobs.
okay,
So we could remove high road and say something to funds to assist employers and their partners in advancing quality jobs, business practices that support quality jobs
Mhm.
and innovative business models. Something like that. I think that's
Yeah.
in line with what we're trying to do.
I think what I'm trying to gauge is, are we expecting someone that this would be a nonprofit that's says, I'm gonna put together a program for employers, or I'm gonna put together a program for or is an employer coming in and asking us for funding? I've always wondered about that.
Whoever can promote and provide quality jobs. I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question because it would impact how we're putting this out as well. We wouldn't be able to have like a grant agreement with a business directly.
Though we could with Main Streets, for example, right?
Yeah, so maybe it's an application, employers need to have some sort of nonprofit partner
Mhm.
that they've identified on their application. That could be
Yeah, and that would be in the section on
maybe a little
who's
bit
eligible.
cleaner, yeah.
Mm. And we can remove the high road business practices. I think when we were putting this together, that was a term that was kind of used nationally. But if it hasn't really caught on, I think if we just remove that and focus on the quality jobs piece, that's clear enough.
Right,
Yeah.
so if it's, like, I'm thinking of, let's say we get a medium business that says, I'm gonna pick on the T, so we get a medium to large business and they're like, you know what, we need to improve our deployment of hours. And so this was a big job quality issue that the T was facing with their bus drivers, was
Yeah.
split shifts, right? And we
Mhm.
wanna explore how we improve the shift scheduling in our workforce. We're gonna work with ABC nonprofit to help us develop a new tool. it makes it a higher quality job. Is that something that we would kind of think we would fund?
I would be in favor of that.
Yeah, I think as long as they can demonstrate, like, they have multiple Somerville residents that are
Employed.
that
Mhm.
employed and would be benefiting
Mhm.
from it.
Yeah,
Not just like one Somerville employee that works in a totally different team or something,
Mhm.
but I mean, it's the
Yeah.
team, so.
But yeah, that's what I'm thinking of this because I know this is an issue that that they've been trying to tackle. It's been in the papers, like,
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think an agency like that, like if they came to us and said, would you be willing to help support that work? Otherwise the work might die, like. I also
otherwise we're
wonder-
gonna keep losing people.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
they'll
I-
lose jobs.
I do
'cause
wonder if
they
there's a
can't
little
do
bit of a
things.
like, but for application question that we should ask. Like, but for this funding, the program would be
Mm.
delayed a year, would take, we would have to, we think we would be winding down.
Mhm. To me, that seems like it would fit in which I think we need to clarify this to another section of the application that says, how are you going to make a strong case for why you need this money?
Yeah, I would just do that. Like,
Yeah,
they
who's in
should
the
make a
question?
strong case.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I think that's gonna be a really more important part of this application than we've seen in any of our other applications, making the case for the money.
Something I wanted to just mention as well is that we have this list here, and this list doesn't have to be a choose one of the following. There are a lot of successful programs that are already doing multiple components of this, right? They're telling us, you know, we're doing this training program. This is the budget to run it, which also includes buying, you know, the latest textbooks or whatever it might be. So I think some of the strongest proposals we've had probably already touch on multiple things here. So just want to make sure it's clear that we're not necessarily saying like have an entire application for tools and equipment. Like there's other work that's happening side by side with that. And maybe this also just encourages our partners to think a little bit holistically about what it takes to keep their trainings relevant, current, and yeah, all of that.
I'm wondering if any of the board members who haven't had a chance to speak yet could look at this list and imagine it going out in this edited version in an actual RFP and let me know if you're comfortable with it. The yellow is removed, right? Deleted, gone. The blue
Yeah.
is to be added. And I would love, this is a really big opportunity for us to scope this grant. And it would be fantastic if we weren't in a meeting 2 months from now with folks saying they want to pull out bullet points.
I'm just gonna strike through the yellow because it's confusing. It's not for me to
Thank
have
you.
it highlighted.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you want to strike through that and then start at the top and go down.
Sure.
Jim, question while we do this editing or
Sure.
comment.
Yeah, so I do agree with the changes, and as we're going through the list, there's several items that could be all included into one grant, as you folks said. So I agree with the changes. I think, I think it really opens things up, to serve more folks. And I think it'd be a good opportunity for folks to apply for the RFP.
Thanks, Jim.
Yep, this is Jacob. Support on similar lines, right? This is greater flexibility for respondents, which hopefully will lead to some more creative activity that we see.
Thanks, Jacob.
I'll pipe in. I agree with the changes for all the different reasons that were just brought up. One thing it was interesting on the one with the like say a business was going to propose, some kind of training program. One of the things that came to mind was maybe somebody like the Cambridge Health Alliance might want to offer, like they say they have issues with medical assistance or something like that, and they want to create a program. Would something like that be, acceptable under all this?
I think so. I mean, to me, what stands out is I like the idea of testing the waters here with employers and having them in partnership. And I like actually putting in find a partner.
Mhm.
And maybe we need to find a partner matching like day.
So speed dating.
Yeah, maybe we've done speed dating before. And that could be really interesting, right? If that's a part of this RFP looks like is like, do you want to participate in our speed dating event? Because I do like the idea of the on the job training opportunities. I was just on the job I was jumping over from the biosafety committee, and the biosafety committee, they talk about, well, everybody who starts in these jobs has to have bloodborne pathogen training. Well, who does that bloodborne pathogen training for those new employees? Is that something that is sort of like a certificate that somebody could get from Justice Start? Like, could that be something that we are training folks on so that when they jump into that job, they already have that training? Like, I feel like there's a lot of mining from some of these things and that's on potentially, a higher scale, and maybe Triumvirate also needs to do bloodborne pathogen training for their stuff. I don't know, but like,
Right.
I think there's a layer here of connecting the dots between the employer and the nonprofit world that I'd love for us to be strengthening.
I mean, Rachel, Triumphant, that's another good, very large employer, right? That may need employees for certain types of technical jobs that they'd be willing to train in, and they came to us with a program. I'm because something like this came up through some of the developers that I've talked to recently. They're not ready to commit to anything yet, or to but there was just some technical questions they were asking about the process, the RFPs, how would that go about, or if they had an idea that they wanted to submit before the board, would the board be open to that? So I just want to make sure we're not, like you're canceling somebody out, because they don't maybe have an additional partner or a nonprofit partner. It could be a business that wants to do something, wants to hire more Somerville employees, and they want to offer some kind of training or something like that. So again, they're not ready to kind of go anywhere with this yet. We've just been kind of talking a little bit back and forth. But it was just a thought. But all these other changes I think are really good, and I think that'll help things going forward.
Rachel.
I think it might be worth us investigating what doing an open, inclusive of businesses training looks like. One of the other ones that we had success with in the small business side was we did through our small business grant, serve safe training in Spanish and Portuguese. And that was big.
Yeah.
And we've been looking at it as like, we only did it in Spanish and Portuguese. We actually didn't do it in English. And we got a lot of requests for access to serve safe training in English. And it helps every single hospitality organization in the city if we can do that kind of training. But like, the companies that do that are for profit. They're not, it's not a nonprofit. So I like also that if we do that, that also leaves open this employer internal training opportunity too, that maybe that actually helps us. It's a different process than we've normally done. And William's gonna be frustrated with me because it's gonna need a lot more headache and internal process on our end to figure out how we do this.
Yeah.
But sorry.
No.
I think it's a good point that, something that I've recognized a little bit with, our Good Municipal Jobs RFP that's out now too, is that it's like I mean, this is speaking to Rachel's point, for-profits are not necessarily paying attention to our RFPs or figuring out how they can play a role. So the onus is on the nonprofits and the education providers to go out and make those connections, but like, if the employers can kind of see themselves a little bit more as a potential audience, I think that happens more naturally.
Silvana, you had your hand raised, and I saw Vicky did as well.
Yes, I agree, and the language is much more clear, but I had just a small clarification. In one of these, we had the term with available local jobs, and at the new one that we agree to modify is funds to assist public agencies and nonprofit partners to purchase equipment, tools, including software, and defray other capital costs directly related to job training, education purpose. But I don't see any like where this includes local jobs, or it's just to specify, are we working for these, or we're spending a little bit more? Because I know it's much more clear, but I just wanted to be a little bit more specific. Do we have to have it or not?
Can I build on Savannah's point? I wonder if that public, given what we were just talking about expanding potentially to the inclusive for-profit world as well, is that funds to assist, need to just say funds to assist with the purchase, and we take out the who? And then, because I'm thinking of like, if you're that small, if you're triumvirate, right? And you might be saying, okay, maybe this is a fit for me to be able to get the equipment to do more effective trainings in person at our facility here in Somerville. Like, I'm literally just making things up, but like, would that be something that we would be open to funding?
So my comment goes directly to that. I think we need to be very careful that we don't just become a funding operation for employers' training. Like they need to have skin in the game, because training, helps employers as well. So I'm not sure I would be supportive of using our funding to help private sector employers purchase equipment. I think I'd be in favor of supporting them to train their staff if they are also putting some skin in the game. Like their staff are going to be able to do it on work hours. And so they're actually paying the hours, the hourly wages of those staff while they're in training. Or they are going to guarantee that their staff get wage increases as a result of this training. So I think we have to be very, very careful that we're not just, supplanting employers' investment in their workforces as well. But we're supporting it, but we're not replacing it.
Yeah, it also could get a little bit confusing, if an employer is like, oh, I want to buy another cash register, and now I can employ another person because I have more equipment. Like it could just get into a little bit of a gray area of businesses just like seeing this as a way to pay for a lot of things that
Yeah.
may not be as close.
Yep. I think I would also and then I see you, Tom, on the local jobs front, I think that's a pretty ill-defined phrase that we haven't historically included in our applications of that this is like, we have something for that it's for Somerville residents, but we don't always have something in there that it's for Somerville residents to be hired by Somerville organizations. And I think we would want to be careful about what local implies. Like, as someone who's always worked in Boston, like, I'm fine. Like, and I don't know, I don't want to just be like, well, I'm fine. But I think like our region is the labor market is regional. And so I wonder about what it means to say for local jobs.
Savannah, do you wanna talk a little bit more about your comment, what you meant by that?
But it was just my idea was not clear when I was watching that, just because of the fact that we are trying to support municipal jobs and local jobs for the resident of Somerville. I have I just thought it was more make sense. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I think, yeah, I agree with Annika, it might constrain things too much.
But the agencies that are gonna lead these programs, I don't think they have to be only from Somerville.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we could put something to ensure that folks are able to be hired within the like broadly local labor market. I think
Regional.
regional, yeah. I think we've typically put something in there about how we are trying to fund things that are responsive to, like, basically, like, you should be able to get a job in the Boston area when you're done with this, right? Like, if people are like, oh, I'm only training for like potato farms, we'll be like, well, we don't have a lot of those here, so that's not going to be good. So I think rather than put it in this category where people might be like, oh, is this something where I need to be having some sort of like Somerville focused jobs initiative? I think to get to your point, Silvana, of people being able to get hired by employers relatively close to where they live, that in the other criteria, we should say something about like that, this is for organizations that are creating or supporting people to get employment in our regional labor market. And so we would only fund things that are set up and teed up for like what employers are actually hiring in like Somerville or Cambridge or Boston, not like far flung, like, well, you could travel after you finish this to get your degree.
Yeah, yeah, so we can handle it in the eligible organizations section and in the outcomes section too, actually.
So I would actually just delete that local job section on that. And Tom, go ahead.
My first reason for putting my hand up was, when William mentioned, we don't want to fund somebody to buy a cash register and then I can hire somebody. But, we would never approve that anyway. I mean, at the end of the day, we would look at that application and say, yeah, we're not doing this, right? So I'm not too worried about that. What I'm hoping is that, companies that may not want to, expand or have a training program, that, hey, with a little money from us, it might make sense for them to go ahead and do that. And then use some of that money to also outreach to, again, Somerville residents for those jobs in Somerville. Because remember, all this money is coming from development in Somerville. And originally, when we sold all this to try to, get this whole thing off the ground, this was for future jobs in Somerville. So again, unfortunately, the lab buildings are empty. So, we're not filling those jobs right now today, but we are starting to see some resurgence on that. I've been reading as different articles in the Boston area that some of this is starting to come back to life a little bit. But, I agree, the jobs are regional, but on the other hand, when I'm talking to developers and people that are funding, that have been funding this, again, it was sold that, hey, we want to build this workforce in Somerville for these future jobs that are going to be here. So I don't want to forget all that in the process of just saying, well, take out local, because, that was where we started. And I just don't want to forget that. But I do agree with you, employment's regional. And so it's just a balance that I want to be careful about on when we're talking to, because what I'm trying to do is get more of these developers and businesses to be more involved in this process,
Yeah, I think that we, Somerville, are an important part of the regional labor market. And I think if there are opportunities for the businesses that are coming in to be, they should be interfacing with the city. And we also have our usually annual labor market information about like who's coming in. And I know, Tom, you're super plugged into that. So I think I've appreciated that we as a board have tried to be thoughtful about what types of jobs are coming in to not just the Boston area, but also in Somerville. And at the same time, like to best prepare Somerville residents, we need to think about like what the whole region looks like. But you know, if these lab spaces fill up, then I think like build a biotech pipeline right there. But we're already also funding some of these biotech programs, right? So like they could go to Just to Start and land a job in one of these labs if they open. I would go back down, William, and I think we're at a point where we're close to wrapping up. So if anyone has any last thoughts in here, could you just take out 4 jobs? Like it's related to job training and education purposes. Yeah. Thank you. And so,
Blending.
Rachel, what's up?
My hand was blending into the background, sorry. So go ahead, if you were, I don't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
So I had a couple of thoughts. One was, I think it's worth us thinking about if we're bringing in employers as a potential partner here that we're attracting, allowing for to serve Somerville employees in this as opposed to just Somerville residents, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's a pilot for us, right? To add that layer, but being able to serve the employee base, even if they aren't residents, but they're working here, they're part of our constituency, it's improving that job quality. The other thing I was thinking about in terms of that job quality is we've been talking about some of these HR functions. It's one of the things that we haven't spent money on, but maybe this also ends up filtering up here. We're going through this locally in the city right now that we're gonna be doing, you know, gender identity trainings. We're gonna be doing sexual harassment trainings, these kinds of things that improve job quality. Is that a kind of program for a company that's never done that before that we would be open to funding? I actually think that might be really valuable. Those things are not getting funded much these days in other places. You know, that it feels like it's living our values. To be promoting some of those kinds of trainings that, again, we probably need a partner to do that if you're a smaller company. To sort of, again, ensuring that there's more access.
Yeah, we definitely support the job quality piece of things. I mean, the other thing that we should think about on something like that is, if a company is already required to do sexual harassment training or anti-sexual harassment training, they should pay for that on their own. But if they're doing something above and beyond to support the quality of their jobs, I think that's what we could support.
Thanks, guys. I have 2 thoughts. One is, William, could you make a note to check our bylaws on if we can only serve Somerville residents? Because that comes up a lot, and I think that's
it is only Somerville residents.
Okay.
We have this link. If it's okay, Annika, I just wanted to point out, I skipped over this and went straight to the bullets, but we do have this language here that talks about creation and maintenance of employment and career opportunities within and near the city of Somerville for the residents of the city. And then this last part here that will permit them to succeed and maintain adequate income so they can continue to afford living in the city of Somerville. So this kind of gets a little bit at the question of local and regional. Still don't know that it's super specific, but and then the other part of that is like if we do want to think about the employees, as Rachel mentioned, then it's definitely like a change to the ordinance because it's pretty explicit. So
Rand, did you have a comment or was it your Zoom chat question? All right, no worries. Thanks for being here. Bye. Yeah, I think this has been a good discussion, folks. I appreciate you, William, anchoring us to the intro language. I would flag that I think we went down a series of hypotheticals, and I might remind us that the reason we're doing this is because all of these nonprofits are getting massively cut, and many of them are probably laying off staff. So I think it's interesting to think about what some of the creative uses for the funds could be. And I think it's probably good for us to go into an RFP process with, you know, thinking through, are we accidentally going to get too many of a certain type of application that this wasn't intended for? And these specific cases that people are bringing up are helping us talk through that. But I think I also feel like in some ways we drifted pretty far from some of the goals of what we were originally talking about, which was to make sure that organizations can keep upskilling and giving opportunities to people to get jobs. So I think some of the ideas that folks have surfaced are interesting. And if we get those applications and they meet our robust criteria, then like maybe they get funded. But I'm not sure if I would like put this RFP out there being like, oh, I hope that we get all of these sort of like very niche like training requests, when it seems like what we're trying to do is make sure that our entire like sector and their employer partners can survive to make it through this sort of terrible time.
Yeah, we're really trying to support our workforce development infrastructure in Somerville. So that way we have an infrastructure to rely on in future funding opportunities. Good point, Annika. Thank you.
So I'm not like, oh, specific ideas I didn't like. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to like re-anchor us to like why we originally started talking about a more flexible grant. And I think it would also be helpful for us to not then pile on a lot of very specific criteria around percentages or around like making the grant application more complicated, or like we got feedback from the field saying simpler grant applications for unrestricted funds that support their work and their mission is what's helpful. And so I just want us to check ourselves around when we make suggestions that are counter to what the field has highlighted would be really helpful for them during this time. So I think this has been a good discussion. It's 7:45. So we've been meeting for about an hour and 15. This will not be our last opportunity to talk about this. The subcommittee, if folks are available, are actually also meeting right after this meeting. And then we'll, of course, go through our different processes of bringing back the full RFP, releasing it. Like there will be multiple times for us to talk through this. And we'll all see a different version of this that doesn't have the edits. So more opportunities for us to talk about this. I'd like us to close out by a reminder of the upcoming meeting schedule. We are scheduled to come in on the third Thursday of each month at 6:30 for the reminder of the calendar year. And the calendar invites, thank you, William, for sending all those out, include the locations of the meeting and also the Zoom link to join remotely. So our next meeting will be August 21st at 6:30. We've got one at September 18th at 6:30. Ooh, okay, I might not actually be able to make that one. That's fine. And then October 16th at 6:30 is our annual meeting. So the next two meetings will include conversations about planning for our annual meeting and how we can use this opportunity to both share what we've been up to with the public, with Somerville residents, with the workforce development providers, with the business community, and also solicit their feedback and their insights around what would be helpful for them, what the business community is looking for as far as support in being able to have a skilled workforce, what the providers are looking at. So I always enjoy our annual meeting, and I just want to specifically flag that October 16th is the date that we're looking at for the annual meeting. And then there's the other two dates, November 20th and December 18th, so that rounds out our year. And so with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, Vicky.
I'll second that.
Okie dokie. So all in favor, Tom Bent,
Yes.
Vicky Coates,
Yes.
Sylvana Dinka,
Yes.
Jim Hetchy,
Yes.
Jacob's gone. Rachel Nadkarni,
Yes.
Annika Van Eaton, yes, and Rand is gone. All right. Contentious motion passes. This meeting is called to close at 7:48. Thanks, everybody.
All
Thank
right, thank
you.
you. So will that